Hello and welcome everyone. We're so glad you can join us today. We're just getting started here. So as we get going, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love for you to share your name, pronouns, any affiliation you may have, and where you're joining us from. And before we start, I have just three brief housekeeping notes. First, we are going to dig deep into policy discussions today, but we will not engage in electoral or partisan conversations during this session. Second, we have enabled automatic closed captioning. So to turn those on, go to the meeting controls toolbar that's at the bottom of your screen and click captions and then show captions. So this is AI and it's often imperfect. We'll add improved captions before we send video of this event later this week. And if you're joining us in the live stream, make sure to register for the briefing. That's at bit.ly labor lessons DEC. And that way you can get the video and follow-up resources. And third, we encourage you to ask questions of our incredible panel throughout this event. You can drop your question in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen or in the chat, and we'll get to as many of the questions as we can. So welcome again, everyone. I'm Sarah Steffens, the Worker Power Director for We Build Progress, and I'm so excited to be moderating this discussion today. For so many of us, 2025 has been a painful and difficult year as we're enduring attack after attack on our freedoms, our families, and our communities. Our democracy has slid toward authoritarianism with astonishing speed, and it's taken a horrifying toll on immigrant families, federal workers, other union members, LGBTQ communities, and our First Amendment rights. These attacks are terrifying and overwhelming, and that's by design, but we must not turn away and we cannot give up the fight. Instead, we have to practice hope and turn to action. And we do that by rooting ourselves in the other story of 2025. And that's the amazing and inspiring responses of ordinary people all across the country who are standing together to resist tyranny, to protect our neighbors, and defend our democracy. From day one, labor unions have been on the front lines of this resistance, not only in the courts, but in the streets, at workplaces, and in our communities, from rural neighborhoods to big cities and everywhere in between. The amazing labor leaders joining us today remind us that none of us are alone in this fight. Solidarity is our strength, and together we are more powerful than we know. So we are moving around our agenda a little bit today. It's a busy time of year, and Representative Randall is completing some votes on the floor. We are going to start first with Jon Schleuss. Jon is the president of the NewsGuild-CWA. That's my home union and the largest union of journalists and media workers in North America, representing about 27,000 workers in more than 500 workplaces. Since Jon's election, more than 8,500 workers have unionized with the Guild, and under his leadership, the union has won solid protections for journalism jobs, both in collective bargaining agreements and legislation. So, Jon, let's begin with just setting the scene. What are journalists facing right now? What has the Trump administration been like for your members?
Well, thanks so much for including me, Sarah, in this discussion. It's a very long list, so bear with me because I'm going to walk through a lot of the direct attacks that our members are facing as working journalists. But first, I just want to point out that a lot of journalists are working class folks. We have a lot of members who, work multiple jobs in addition to being a journalist. Some of our members don't even afford to put enough food on their tables and have to rely on food banks. I think a lot of people think of journalists as maybe being overpaid and like being on TV, but most journalists across the United States are working or trying to work inside communities and scratching by under pretty intense and difficult economic headwinds. We've lost tens of thousands of journalists across the United States in the last decade because of a change in the industry and some other factors. But they really strive to try to bring us stories in our communities, making sure that we're caught up on sports, but also they're the folks who are really minding the store, and they're our eyes and ears when we're looking for coverage of what's happening in our city council meetings and our school boards, and in Congress and the White House. They really work to limit bias and make sure that really doing our ethical obligation to seek truth and report it. That's what every journalist is really trying to do. So in the last year, under the Trump administration moved really quickly to start blocking journalists from covering the White House, cutting access to journalists at Reuters and at the Associated Press and many other outlets for their refusal to change their style guide to call it the Gulf of America, as the Trump administration wanted to. Though from our vantage point, Gulf of Mexico was the name long before the United States was even a country. And so that's what we continue to call it in all of our organizations, or most of our organizations. He also has actively blocked journalists or forced journalists to sign on to really problematic policies at the Pentagon, limiting the ability for sources to even provide information to journalists covering the Department of Defense. And now a lot of the folks who are left in the quote unquote press room of the Pentagon are right-wing influencers. It's all part of a broader effort to avoid accountability. I mean, we've seen name calling by the president himself, going after journalists, particularly women journalists, calling them really inappropriate, sexist things like piggy or ugly or nasty. But we've also seen that from the guy who's the top of our defense department, Pete Hegseth, who is called journalists that his own staff had included in Signal chats. He's demeaned them for covering the fact that they are spreading what look like confidential information in Signal chats. And the Trump administration has actively worked to defund journalism, going after PBS and NPR, which is particularly vital news in a lot of Republican areas that don't have a lot of other news outlets already, or large, like across long distances, like across places like Alaska. And it's all part of a pattern, I think, really to try and bully the press by trying to silence the public. That's really the effort to prevent coverage. And then separately, we've also faced a lot of physical attacks by our journalists. We've seen, unfortunately, Department of Homeland Security and ICE, when they've done these like kind of massive raids in many cities, DHS agents have turned their guns and their weapons directly on our members, directly on journalists in some cases who are holding a reporter's notebook and a pen and have a press badge on. They've picked up their rifles and they've shot our members in the head with rubber bullets and hit them with tear gas in places like Chicago and Southern California. And we're just trying to cover protests, right? It's illegal for the government, or it should be illegal for the government to attack journalists and violate our right to a free press, but also to attack peaceful protesters. Of course, this administration is blowing past that, and we've had to file several lawsuits. And we're also seeing finally a change in the editorial policies in a lot of our outlets, with more publications trying to be really careful about how they're covering the Trump administration, and this started like actually even before the election. We saw two major newspapers, the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times, the owners of which are Jeff Bezos at the Post and Patrick Soon-Chung at the LA Times, billionaires who are controlling these establishments, these newsrooms, pull their endorsements at the last minute of Kamala Harris right in front of the election, outraging a ton of readers and subscribers. But since the election and since January, we've also seen news outlets try to adjust their language to avoid the wrath of the administration, and go as so far as to even attack and directly terminate or discipline members themselves. We've had members like Karen Attia at the Washington Post, who was fired by the Post for expressing an opinion online. She's an opinion writer. So it's been really bad for journalists who, again, like I said, are mostly just like trying to scrape by and put enough food on their table. And we all have this itch to actually tell the story, but the Trump administration is directly attacking journalists, which is an attack on all of us.
Wow, thank you for sharing all that. And so, what is the role that journalists play then in standing up, fighting for free speech, and pushing back against these kind of authoritarian measures?
Yeah, well, the first thing that we do is we pick up our pen and we pick up our camera again, and we continue to cover people in powerful positions, including the president himself. So we are going to keep doing that. And there's been some phenomenal reporting from a lot of our members, whether it's at the New York Times, the Washington Post, places like ProPublica, nonprofit news outlets, but even at the local level, we're seeing a lot of journalists just continue to do the right job of seeking truth and reporting it, so that we all know what's happening in our communities and across the country. The other thing that we've been doing is filing lawsuits. When our members are attacked, like I think especially for unions, there's a lot of power in creating standing. I mean, unions have the ability to file lawsuits alongside other partners like the American Civil Liberties Union. So, we've worked with our members when they're attacked and making sure first that they're okay and that they've got the protective equipment necessary to do their jobs. But second, when they're shot by the US government for doing their jobs, they have a right to a safe workplace. So we've been working with the ACLU and others to file lawsuits and working with our members to actually explain and share the really dark footage of what they've faced when they go out and try to cover these stories. We've been successful in several places to get injunctions, but I think that's a great area for unions to actually like fight for. And so when we're joining lawsuits on behalf of journalists who were attacked, we're also joining lawsuits on behalf of peaceful protesters. So that's any American who wants to go out and make sure that they have the right to peacefully protest. We're also fighting for that too. And then obviously, like as a union, we think that workers can unionize to actually protect themselves and their jobs. So we've been winning strong contract language to make sure that like journalists have ballistic vests if they need to when they're covering some of these protests that turn violent because the government or police are making it violent. Making sure they have helmets, making sure they have proper equipment, gas masks in some places, but also making sure that they have the right in their contracts they're fighting for at bargaining tables. I just saw a contract a couple of weeks ago that had really great language to make sure that like they would have legal support from the newsroom if they're sued, because we have county sheriffs all across the country who are also attacking journalists. Now we've had this in Los Angeles, where the former county sheriff has gone directly after one of our members, called her a criminal, had deputies actually like follow her. So being able to like make sure that they have legal protections to do their job and hold power to account has been essential. And then separately, a bread and butter issue for a lot of union members is making sure that we have just cause protections so that folks aren't inappropriately disciplined or terminated for doing their job and holding power to account. We've also been like pushing back. A lot of our members have been pushing back on assignments and editing to make sure that they're able to still be independent. And if, the right words need to be in there because those are the words of a source, making sure that we're fighting together to include those in stories. And it's been stronger when we do that as in a collective action. We've had members who have been more public. So some members have gone public. Unfortunately, like for Karen Atia's case, after she was terminated. But I think a lot of our members have gone forward as groups and gone public as groups to push back on draconian editorial decisions. Brought community in to also support that. And then, like I said at the top, we are going to continue to pick up our pens. We're going to continue to go out with our equipment, and we're going to continue to report the job. And so a lot of the thing that folks can do is actually just like finding your local newspaper, subscribing to it. If you've got a nonprofit news outlet, finding a way to support them, realizing that a lot of journalists are just working class folks who are trying to just do the work as a public service so that we all know and we're informed in our communities.
Thank you so much. And thank you for connecting the line between the importance of, having somebody have your back and protecting your rights at work and your ability to, be fully free in our democracy. Want to turn next to another amazing panelist we have today, Randi Weingarten. She is the president of the 1.8 million member American Federation of Teachers, which represents teachers, educators, and other school-related personnel. Prior to her election as AFT president in 2008, President Weingarten served for 11 years as the president of the United Federation of Teachers, AFT Local 2, representing approximately 200,000 educators in the New York City public school system. And President Weingarten just published a book earlier this year, Why Fascists Fear Teachers, Public Education and the Future of Democracy. So President Weingarten, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you first shed some light for us on what teachers and educators are facing right now? What's happening in our schools and what's at stake?
Only if you call me Randi.
Okay, happy to do that.
Thank you. And look, I really appreciated what I got on a little late. I'm back from a week of travel, so I'm a little a little tired. But uh, look, teachers are facing all the things. And I think Jon just talked about, you know, where journalists are really out there as our eyes and ears, covering stories, telling people what's going on. What a shock. Authoritarians do not want them to tell what's going on. They want, and they will use fear. I mean, look at Orban, look at others. They will use all sorts of different repressive tactics to try to undermine what journalists do. And it's not a surprise. And you see, I'm wearing a paper clip here, which is the first story in my book about the Norwegian teachers and how after the Nazi occupation, they were basically everything was prohibited, any expression of any political sentiment. So what they started doing is wearing a paperclip as a way showing like a paperclip binds papers together, binding community together. And so I kind of think about it in terms of trust and community, solidarity, engagement. It creates the trust both within our labor community, our teacher community, our nurse community, but also within the broader community. And so, what is happening in terms of educators, and you saw this from day one with ICE, you know, we took a stand that initially said that, not initially, just took a stand that said ICE is not welcome in our schools. Our schools, we are in locus parentis, and our obligation, not just legally, but morally, legally, Doe versus Plyler versus Doe. We have an obligation under the 14th Amendment to teach every single child, documented and undocumented, just like we have an obligation under the Constitution to teach to not be separate and unequal. And I use this and start with this because just like the First Amendment, they're connecting the dots of what our government is supposed to be and what our governing documents in this democracy are supposed to be, and how we actually say we are the ones who are fighting for, we are the patriots, we are the ones who are fighting for an America that's supposed to work for all. And so from the beginning of actually saying, no, ICE is not welcome in our schools, you're not taking away students in any normal situation, people would be like, what? That's nuts. Like you would just go into a school and take a child? We would never do that in any other situation. Why would we do that here, regardless of who the children are? But secondly, then what you had um, is essentially, and I'll take a step back saying, how do regular people have really any power? They have power of knowledge through the press, through public education. They have power through a labor movement, but no, you know, Sarah, just like everybody else you have here, has, you know, we have been much diminished. We, you know, in terms of organizing and in terms of who our membership is. How else do you have economic power that but that way? And third, you have power through, yes, through other government entities, but through really elections, meaning through the courts, but really elections. So what a surprise that the Trump administration basically is going after all three of those ways of creating power. In terms of education, they're making this ridiculous argument since the states have control of education and have had since the beginning of the country that education should go back to the states. What they really mean is that the things that the federal government was supposed to do, which is give poor kids and kids with disabilities money, give kids who have student debt, abate that student debt, and make sure that the civil rights laws are affirmed. That's what they're trying to take away. And then impeding speech that they don't like, getting rid of things they don't like, taking away and erasing civil rights laws at the same time as they're trying to reconstruct an ideology through curriculum. They're doing the same thing in terms of labor rights. Look what they did in terms of the federal government and federal employees. And we all know what they're trying to do in terms of elections. I don't have to go through that. And we all know what Jon went through, what they're doing in terms of information. So teachers are in the midst of all of that because they're the ones who are actually curating for kids what's going on a day-to-day basis. And so you could see from the day, for example, that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, horrible. We should all be out there fighting against, criticizing political violence, but they used it as an opportunity to fire a whole bunch of teachers. We're fighting against that right now. So the erasure of curriculum, the taking away of money, the divesting from schools, putting everybody into a situation that you don't know what you can and can't say without being fired. And what I think is really going on, and I say this in the book, I say this in the book that I wrote, that why is this kind of fascistic behavior going on? Because education is actually a cornerstone of democracy. I, you can say a lot of things, negative things about the founders, but the founders understood that's part of the reason why the No Kings movement was named the No Kings movement. I understood that the one thing that they actually could agree on is that they didn't want another king. They didn't want to be governed by a king. And virtually every one of those founders, from Jefferson to Franklin to Washington, they thought that education was the bulwark against democracy. Against tyranny. And what about education? Critical thinking, problem solving, being able to distill fact from fiction, understanding context. Now, they didn't anticipate social media and all of the disinformation that we have and the algorithms, but they understood that the antidote to that was education. And the second thing, and this is where I'll stop, the second thing that they hate is pluralism. What do we do in schools, which is part of the reason why teachers are under such stress? The term diversity and inclusion is not simply a civil rights term. It is about what do teachers do every single day, the first day of school, when kids come into a classroom. You take diverse learners, you take diverse people, and you put them together into a community called a classroom. And then you try to help kids learn how to live with each other, talk to each other, be a community, be friends, have relationships. It's a microcosm of what society does. And in society, regardless of whether you agree or disagree, you try to bring together society in a congealed kind of way so the society in a democracy operates together for a better future. So schools are where you learn the habits of democracy. And authoritarians, their tools, fear and apathy, isolation, fear, and apathy. So as a result, the people against us are doing everything they can to make teachers' lives miserable, to make them feel like they're on shifting sand unless they do exactly what the leader wants them to do. And frankly, that's not who teachers are. By April, in a poll we took of our members, over 25% at that point had already been protesting on something because teachers want a better life for their kids, themselves, their communities. That's who they are. That's why people teach, to make a difference in the lives of others. And they want to connect the dots between education and freedom and the economy. And so that's what we've been going through, but we're bringing everyone together in our union for the fight for affordability as a way, because we know if that happens, if we're all together in that fight, it's a labor fight, it's a community fight, it's an education fight, so that people can actually have the promise and the bounty of America.
Amazing. Thank you for that. So you spoke about how teachers are standing together to say our students need to be free from ICE in our classrooms, and how educators are upholding the long-standing work of teaching young American citizens about their rights. Are there other things that you want to mention, Randi, about how AFT members are showing up in this moment to fight authoritarianism, in this particular administration?
Well, this is why I said I was actually when we asked people and this was April, we haven't asked again, but we asked, have you, you expect, and look, our members are very vocal and they're passionate, and I love that about them. But as every labor union kind of knows, if you have 5% of people being active, that's a good number. So when 25% of your members say to you they've actually gone out for at least one protest, and we've had thousands of people out there on No Kings, because they understand that for us to have any freedom, all of us have to have freedom. And the freedom starts with not having a dictatorship or a king. It has to be a rule of law where we fight in a nonviolent way to change the laws that we don't like. But that is part of what this democracy is. We can do economic disruption, we can do all sorts of things, but we are about fighting in the courts and the court of public opinion. We are about fighting in the Congress and in commerce. We're about fighting in terms of the streets in a nonviolent way. And teachers are really engaged in that outside of their classrooms. In their classrooms, they're teaching kids how to think, not what to think. But what impacts them in their classrooms is everything that's going on. So if Donald Trump does something really skeevy, as he did about women reporters, take what Jon said before, and a kid comes into your classroom and says, is that person really a pig? Then what do? You say to yourself, oh no, I can't answer that question because I'm going to get in trouble? Or do you, as a teacher, answer that question and try to create a way of having a conversation? So when I say that that this really impacts people every single day, when SNAP benefits are taken away, most of our kids are poor. What do? We have a whole bunch um, of of food, that and pantries and whatever that are all across the country, but they can't replace SNAP benefits. So teachers are kind of in the middle of all of these things, and they see the repression of people, even people that Donald Trump that voted for Donald Trump. I mean, what they see is what we are all seeing, that the promises that he made to people to make their lives better, he's not doing, but the effects have still been there. So, what teachers are fighting against is the playbook authoritarians, which is, they may not say it this way, but they're fighting against the fear, they're fighting against the cruelty, they're fighting against the apathy, but they're doing it in a way that tries to create community and tries to create trust. So we may not use all those words, but you look at, for example, what happened in Chicago. Whistles, pictures, pamphlets about what to do, community and teacher groups together, our union, Chicago Teachers Union. We are constantly working with community. So if ICE was there, you could hear whistles across that neighborhood. You could hear people organizing in a minute. You just had and you could see the pictures that people took of ICE so that they could not do it in secret. They may have a mask on, but they could not do their cruelty in secret. And then constantly talking about this and getting the word out. So when I say that teachers we're fighting the cuts, we're being on the streets for these big demonstrations, but on this day-to-day basis against this terrible cruelty, whether it's the cut of SNAP or whether it's ICE taking our families, we're out there fighting it every single day. Again, creating trust, working with community, and actually, and this is the last thing I'll say, showing people, our members and our union, that there's a third choice. It's not simply whether or not one agrees with the cruelty and the chaos and the corruption of Trump, or wants what is the status quo, which is broken. If it wasn't broken, we wouldn't have gotten Trump. But we have to think of a third way and I don't mean it like the political third way, a way where we are really fighting for a better life that people, regular folks, can see, believe is possible. And that's what we're trying to do as a union movement, starting with affordability.
Thank you so much, Randy. And really like thank you for all the work that AFT is doing to support your members who really are showing up on the front lines. I've heard such incredibly moving stories of teachers and
Amazing.
what they're doing from day to day. I want to turn next to Arnold Peña Perez to hear more about how another group of workers are standing up. So uh, Arnold has been organizing with SEIU and the California Fast Food Workers Union for the last 8 years. And one of the most notable victories during his time with SEIU includes organizing workers across California in their fight to win California's Assembly Bill 1228, which established the nation's first fast food council, and it secured a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers across California. So, Arnold, you organize fast food workers, other workers fighting for a higher minimum wage. And I know that many of the members you work with are immigrants or come from immigrant families who are under attack from the Trump administration's deportation machine. Many of your members also are facing the loss of SNAP benefits, rising healthcare costs. What have the last few months been like for the union members you work with and the workers you work with?
Hey Sarah, thanks for having me. It's been if I'm frank, a roller coaster. And when it all began, it was very reminiscent to COVID. And when I say that, I imply um, there was a level of uncertainty, like what are we going to do? What's next, right? And so workers were concerned and with fear. But what really uh, was one of the driving factors was when they arrested David Huerta for standing up for worker rights for the workers at that facility. And so that was when it pulled everyone together as a whole, collectively, unions and SEIU members, that we have two choices here. One, we can victimize ourselves and live under that fear, or two, we can stand up and fight back. And so for a while, workers were constantly calling us, what is our union doing? What are we going to do to stand up against these injustices? And so although there was a period of uncertainty, it's also an opportunity where workers are using their voices to call out the lies, the racism, the imbalance of power that are the basis of the attacks that we're seeing. And so the last couple of months, we've been mobilizing fast food workers and other workers across the nation. And we've done this via a few methods. One of them being strikes, protest, and delegations, with the core message that immigrant families are not the reason why working people cannot afford housing, feed their families, or pay for medical prescriptions. The greedy CEOs who rig the rules and take advantage of workers and the politicians who back them are the problem. And so things like price gouging, union busting, corporations, tactics like that are what's being done, right? And that's what the problem is. And so it's very easy, right, to create this narrative and this stigma where they point the finger at immigrants, right? And it creates to distract us while behind that, they're taking away our healthcare, our social security, and SNAP programs, like you mentioned, right, Sarah? And so, unfortunately, fast food management often retaliates against workers, and that includes threatening to call ICE. And we've seen it, and it happens when they stand up for their rights. And so a big work and one of our planks within our union is the fast food worker ordinance. And so we're calling on employers and on council members to make sure that they are able to workers are able to know their rights And they do this by supporting the Fair Food Work Ordinance. And so essentially what the ordinance will do is it'll do three main things. It'll provide know your rights training, PTO, and predictable scheduling. As we know, it's a big issue. It's very unstable for them. And so we are calling on council members to do what's right and pass this ordinance that would provide mandatory know your rights training to workers so that they know when and how to speak up.
Amazing. One quick follow-up, Arnold. Why is it so important that unions and the labor movement as a whole stand with immigrant workers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you actually alluded to it earlier on, right? A big chunk of fast food workers, at least here in California, right, constitute, right, or at least undocumented. And so our members are the union. And so whether they're personally impacted by this, they're showing up more than ever to support one another, their coworkers, their neighbors. And so although they may be not directly impacted, their family members are, right? And we've seen that this administration doesn't care whether you're legal or not, right? It's really going based off the skin, the color of your skin. And so in California, just to give you guys some specific numbers, 80% of fast food workers are of color, more than two-thirds are women, and more than one in four are immigrants. And so, as mentioned, a lot of these fast food corporations retaliate and use that uh, to abuse and exploit their workers. And so, we're calling on them to get past this ordinance. But more recently, what we've done is we've been hosting delegations across fast food stores in Los Angeles and other cities. And what workers are doing is they're putting the question out there, which side are you on? And so they're calling for owners to step up and take a stand with their workers by pledging to post signs in designated private areas of the store and denying access to private areas without any judicial warrants. And so, in addition to that, that would add the KYR trainings, and we're also partnering with other organizations. Along with that, we're figuring out how we integrate the community because the community they are the voters within the district, right? Some of these constituents are fast food workers, and so a big importance of why it's so essential for these workers to know their rights. It's because employers rely on fear and rely on the misinformation to silence their workers. However, informed workers are more confident, right, in standing up, reporting workplace abuses, and advocating for safer conditions. And so, knowing their rights is what recognizes it, and it's really the stepping stone for workers to know when to report something and when something is being done unlawfully. And so that's one piece of it. In addition to that, uh, it allows them to work under a sense of tranquility. And so uh, we've tackled that along with Know Your Rights trainings that we are providing bi-weekly for our workers. And this is for existing members and for new workers, where we have an attorney that facilitates this training. And she doesn't, it's an incorporation of workplace labor training along with immigration. And so within that training, we go into what do they do if ICE goes into their workplace, the 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 knows and what not to do, right? And so this equips them to maybe it doesn't guarantee, right, but it minimizes any exposure or any potential violations that come their way. And so we are making America work by taking orders, preparing food, serving customers. And as fast food workers, we feed America. We are white, brown, black, immigrant workers of all backgrounds. And together we make America work. And so that accounts for SEIU as a whole, SEIU and its members, healthcare, airport, bus drivers, you name it. We're making America work, and now more than ever, we need to ensure that the system works for us too. And so SEIU stands with all workers, regardless where they work or the color of their skin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arnold. And thank you to you and all your SEIU siblings for the work that you're doing to bring workers together. We've been moving around the agenda a little bit. I see that Representative Randall was able to step off the floor and join us. So I am honored to welcome her here. Representative Randall is a champion in Congress who has been speaking up for working families and leading the resistance to authoritarianism from here in DC. But she was born and raised in Washington's 6th Congressional District. Emily Randall is a proud product of a union working class family, like so many in her district. She fights for affordable and accessible health care, including reproductive freedom for all, for common sense gun reform, a just transition to a green economy, and affordable education, job training, and apprenticeship programs. Representative Randall, thank you so much for joining us. Can you share a little bit about the urgency of this moment we're in and how you and your colleagues in Congress are approaching it?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's always energizing, especially in the chaos of Washington, D.C., to be in the room, virtual or otherwise, with union siblings, working class people in the fight for all of us. As you heard, I come from a union family. My dad was a shipyard worker, and my grandpa was a sheet metal worker. My mom is a SEIU paraeducator at my high school. I served as a SEIU caregiver for my sister with disabilities. My brother is a ambulance driver and a Teamster. So we roll deep in union world. And as a state legislator, I had the great honor of working with labor leaders across Washington to pass some really incredible policies. Here, it's definitely defense all the time. Like, this fight is coming for us every single day. The administration trying to claw back, the protections that working people have fought for in every single policy. I was just on the floor for a long time today because the Republicans didn't have the votes for the NDAA, and I've been thinking about all of the benefits that Democratic leadership was able to extort out of the NDAA negotiations, but not enough. Not protections for the union workforce, civilian defense workers, like the 27,000 in my district. Not protections from illegal firings, like we have seen, Trump doging 2/3 of the very agencies responsible for, ensuring that federal workers have safe working conditions. And, outside of the NDAA, we have seen the Trump administration put billionaire friends over working people every day. We've seen them reduce minimum wage protections for federal contractors. We've seen them, fight against the worker-focused protections that include, like, equitable hiring practices so that more, BIPOC folks can get into the federal workforce. We have seen them come for women. We have seen them, come for tribal members. We're seeing them attack us every day. And it would be easy to get, I think, downtrodden and overwhelmed by the constant attacks. But I'm inspired by my neighbors, by the union workers in Kitsap County and across the 6th District who show up to protect each other, show up to be on the front lines of fighting back against this administration, show up to provide mutual aid and to volunteer at the food bank during the longest shutdown in government history so that their colleagues could get access to the food that they needed to keep their family fed. I'm inspired every day by working people who believe that on the other side of this, we can rebuild a future that is better for all of us. 14.3 million union members across the country, including almost 550,000 in Washington state, are the people that keep me going. And it's together that we're going to overturn the massive destruction in our healthcare system and build a healthcare system that actually centers the needs of people, people who will have unexpected healthcare needs, people who have rising costs in their budget. And it's together that we are going to overturn the attacks on the professionalization of nursing degrees to ensure that we have a healthcare workforce that is well trained and able to afford to get that training so that they can take care of our neighbors who are sick or injured or aging. It's together that we'll be able to fight back against the dismantling of the Department of Education. It's together that we'll be able to fight back against the longer hours, less sick leave, and higher patient ratios that this administration is trying to pass on us. I know that working class people, that labor leaders, that each of us together, arm in arm, can pass incredible policy. I've seen it in Washington State, where we've worked on mandatory meals and rest breaks for nurses, where we have worked on secure scheduling policy, where we have ensured patient ratios are not too high to keep people in the workforce, and where we finally passed unemployment insurance for striking workers. These wins are only possible when we work together, and they, aren't always immediate. We know we're in for the long haul. We're in the fight together, and it's your voices, your passion, your experience, your stories that both keep me motivated and that I know are going to get us across the finish line for a future that is good for all of us, where we all can dream of the kind of life we want to live, where we all can afford to take leave when we need it, where we all can even go on a vacation, that world is possible if we work together to center our stories, our experiences, and the needs of regular folks over billionaires. So thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to, talk with you. Oh, actually, am I supposed to answer more questions, or do you want me to talk about the policies that we've got working on? I just got in it for a minute.
No, that was great, and thank you, Representative Randall, for reminding us that a better world is possible. If you could just speak briefly, I know that you probably have to get back to voting business quite quickly,
but a few more minutes. Yeah,
I did want to mention. I believe that you are going to be chairing a task force of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing there and how it relates to this moment where, authoritarianism is on the rise and regular people are having a hard time getting by.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, when I was running for office and, on my way to DC, I knew that the PRO Act was going to be, some of the most important policy for us to get across the finish line. We're in the minority, and that's harder this year than I would have hoped it would be, and it will be one of our number one bills when we take back the majority. Today, I think we'll have the opportunity to advance the Protect America's Workforce Act that Jared Golden introduced and that has finally got the signatures it needs to be discharged from committee and come to the floor. And that bill will overturn Trump's executive order that stripped union rights away from federal workers. But beyond that, we know that there is a lot of policy we have to pass post-PRO Act, right? We have to keep envisioning an economy that is built for working people. And so I was so excited when Greg Casar, the chair of the Progressive Caucus, asked me to co-chair a task force on better pay and benefits. I'm co-chairing with Representative DeSaulnier, and on the task force, we have Representative Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Krista Luzio, LaMonica MacGyver, a real powerhouse team of people who have been working their whole careers for the fight for working people. And so we had one roundtable in my district with women in trades, women in the workforce in Tacoma, to talk about some of the particular challenges that they're facing. Lots of childcare, unsurprising to many people, but also sexism and challenges in the workplace. I think there's more policy that we can pass, including some protections from Washington State around, access to safe and healthy pumping facilities and, meeting other needs of women and pregnant people in the workforce. But this is just the beginning. right? We are going to be spending this next year talking to leaders like you, or organizing conversations, busting out the wildest of white papers, right? The dreams that we have on what society could look like, and figuring out what our path will be to build towards that. The one silver lining to the Trump administration burning everything down is that we get to decide how we rebuild it. We don't have to put everything back exactly the way it was. We can build a future that centers our voices. So that's the update on the task force. We have some other great policy, including some emergency responder protections. I had immigrant firefighters in my district raided by Customs and Border Patrol on an immigration action that should not have happened at an active emergency site. Like, we have serious work to do to build an economy that is good for all of us, and none of that is accomplished by attacking immigrants, by attacking women, by attacking people of color, by repealing longstanding worker protections. So the policy making is really exciting to me as a longtime state legislator. And so I look forward to many conversations with all of you. Send us your ideas too. Send us, your friends' great ideas. We want to dig in and figure out how we build that future that we all deserve.
Thank you so much, Representative Randall, and we are honored to have you as an ally in this fight.
My pleasure. Thanks for being flexible.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So before we wrap up today, I want to turn to our last speaker, Curtis Hierro. Curtis is the National Political Field Director at the Communications Workers of America, CWA, where he develops training and helps mobilize members. Curtis is based in Florida. He began in community organizing, building the community organization Dream Defenders that I know a lot of you have heard of. He joined the labor movement as organizing director for the Central Florida AFL-CIO in 2016 before transitioning to a position in the CWA Legislative Political Department in 2018. So Curtis is going to make a really important connection for us, which is that you can have tremendous union leaders like the ones that we have here, but it doesn't mean anything if the rank and file aren't with you, if the union membership aren't bought in. So Curtis is leading CWA's rollout of a training on this very topic, fighting oligarchy, what union members need to know about authoritarianism and how to resist it. So would you share why you decided to create this training and how it's supporting your members so far?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for inviting me on. As you articulated, there's an incredible importance for us to be able to do political education across our hundreds and thousands of union members. While we certainly have folks who come into the union ready to fight and with the politics guided by kind of seeing labor struggles and solidarity first, we also know there are many members who are trapped in many of these kind of right-wing anti-worker ecosystems, right? Getting these anti-solidarity messages that target immigrants, that target our LGBTQ plus community, that target our own interests as a labor union. And therefore, and this dates back a while in CWA, we've realized the necessity of political education and skill development of our rank and file leaders. Turning to the specific training we are developing this year, fighting oligarchy, this arose out of a necessity of understanding unique political moment we find ourselves in. And all of our panelists have wonderfully articulated, I think in detail, a lot of the unique threats we're facing. We chose the frame oligarchy, and I always hear this when we start the training. I'm like, what is this term? Who's heard of it, right? It's a very wonky thing. But we use that term and define it with our members because we think it accurately describes what is happening, right? These political attacks are guided by the interests of the millionaire and billionaire class, right? And that's the type of message that resonates most with our members, regardless of the political ideology they come into the union with. And so with this training, we have a couple top line goals. The first I would say is so that members understand the very unique threat we're facing as a labor movement, as a working class as a whole, right? And that this current regime is working against the interests of our union, working against the interests of working people. We describe what oligarchy is. We go in detail with international examples. For example, Viktor Orban's Hungary, which has been incredibly influential on a lot of the right-wing projects in the United States, Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, right? And say this is not a unique phenomenon here. It's actually one that's taking shape around the world. Additionally, it's important to inoculate our members against the type of divide and conquer tactics we see from a lot of the right-wing ideologues, right? To try to turn us against each other. And that is a big theme throughout inoculating our members against those scapegoating tactics. Additionally, we crafted a very interactive training. We have a lot of interactive modules utilizing a technique we call the gallery walk, where folks go up and reflect on a series of readings that we have on the wall, like paintings, right? In that case, looking at some of the examples from the U.S. Gilded Age, right? Which I think is a very interesting historical parallel. The last time we saw the millionaire and billionaire class, I think, have this level of power and be on the march as they are today. And so this gives us a great framework for members to understand, hey, this happened before, but also working people fought back and won. And we also review the key victories coming out of course, the New Deal era and the civil rights era, in which it took solidarity amongst labor, folks who were not even part of unions, organizations, clergy, to be able to fight and achieve these real victories. Furthermore, we explore the current political moment, and they are able to, using the filters we provide on describing oligarchy, see for themselves that yes, we are currently in a situation where that is the system of government a lot of the folks in power are trying to build. Furthermore, we provide CWA's vision and strategy, right, in a simple to understand form, so our members understand the necessity of political action. We review key tactics of direct action, of nonviolent direct action that our union partakes in, why we picket certain folks' offices, right, why we participate in boycotts, why we have solidarity with other folks. We look at international examples, such as when the working people of Chile stood up to the Augusto Pinochet vile regime, and the lead role organized labor played in that, right? To give a historical reference for how working people need to be at the front of the line in opposing authoritarianism. And then lastly, we give our members key skills of organizing, right? Political organizing, to go back and organize their fellow members toward action. This includes how to have persuasive political organizing conversations through our SEIU methodology, which stands for Connect, Engage, Vision, and Ask. We additionally prepare folks for a very real scenario that could happen, right? And that is around election protection. And in a situation where we have threats to certifying election results, what is an action plan we can take as a union to get involved? That's a very fun interactive exercise where folks build their own action plans based on this scenario. And so far we've piloted this year with over 63 folks who've taken part in a fighting oligarchy module. This next year, we're looking to scale it up into the hundreds and hundreds, right, as a key part of our political program to make sure our members understand both A, the importance of this political moment we're in, and that we are the leaders we've been waiting for in making that change and fighting back against the oligarchs trying to seize power.
Oh, thank you for saying that. We are the leaders that we've been waiting for. I love that. I can imagine that people can be reluctant to engage in these kind of discussions within their unions, kind of like bringing up politics at the Thanksgiving table. But why is it important that unions lean in and actually have these kind of discussions with their members about what's happening in our country?
That's a really important question, and one that we have been pushing, right, on the importance of, is because if we're not organizing these folks, right, then who is, right? It is the Fox News hosts they listen to when they go home at night, or that right-wing leaning podcast, right, that's educating them. And studies have actually shown that unions are the most trusted arbiters of information for their members. And so we are actually well positioned to have persuasive political conversations with our members. And for us, and I know this is nonpartisan, we very much enter the conversation. It's not about political parties. It's about our issues, right? And if we're not getting involved politically, right? Well, then politics is getting involved with us, and we make sure we center those conversations in the real world impacts that it has on our members and the necessity of us being able to fight to protect our union and fight to protect the entire working class.
Amazing. I think we only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to throw out sort of a related question to the whole panel. So, a lot of people, particularly people that don't have the opportunity to join or haven't been part of a union before, they think of unions as like, oh, it's the people that negotiate your contract. It's about your wages and the benefits that you get, maybe, work rules or hours. But why is it important to take a broader view of the labor movement and what it's about? What does that mean at this moment in time? And I'll throw
I can
that to
jump in real
anybody.
quick. You want me to jump in?
Yeah, go for it, Jon.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know the story, Sarah, but I grew up in rural Arkansas and didn't know what a union was. I didn't come from a union family or background. So like, I just was like one day realizing that, oh my God, the boss has unlimited authority to strip away our vacation, to unilaterally change our healthcare policy, to set all of the rules on like pay, which was causing all of me and my colleagues to lose our minds. So we formed a union. And so I think the first thing you can do is realize that every private sector worker and a lot of public sector workers across the country have a lot of rights. And so just like research those rights. In the private sector, you have the right to talk about your wages, benefits, and working conditions even before you have a union. And you can do pretty easy research to figure out like what kind of union or what union you might want to join. But you're able to do a lot just without that. And so I think, showing up, using your voice in your workplace, but also using your voice in the streets, that's the strongest thing you can do. And it feels really good. It also just feels really good when you're out there and you brought a neighbor or you brought a friend out to a protest, or you've got a colleague and you're doing a conversation with your boss as a collective action. It just feels good. Got to do more of that.
Amazing. I have seen so many union members out and about, at protests, raising their voices. Certainly, unions have been on the front end of the legal fight, but also just in terms of feet in the street, I think union members kind of have that grounding in collective power, as well as, people with bullhorns, people that know how to make signs that have effective skills at organizing and getting things done. Arnold, did you want to add anything? We were just talking about why it's important for the labor movement to be, tied to broader things beyond just, the simple hours, wages, and work conditions.
This is our lives. We have to continue fighting and fighting. And as I mentioned, an injustice to one and is injustice to everyone. And so you may not be directly impacted, but you have family members. I think Jon alluded to this, neighbors, right, that go through this. And so the fight continues, and we will continue doing that.
Amazing. I want to thank so much all of our panelists, Representative Randall, everybody who joined us and spoke today. Thank you for being here, but also for the work that you're doing every day. And thank you so much to everybody who joined us today in the audience. If you pre-registered, you'll get an email with links to a caption recording of this briefing and links to some of the resources that our panelists wanted to share. So if you want those resources and you're joining us from the live stream, jump over to http://labor-lessons-dec and register, so you'll get those materials too. Again, I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. What an important hour it is. Keep fighting, keep standing together, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for being with us. Solidarity.